Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only. This man needs no introduction, Bo Dietl.
How you doing, David? Thanks for having me. And I know that a lot of people watch your show, so I'm really excited about this.
You know, sometimes I say the one and only and I really don't mean it, but today I actually mean it. Like, we spoke on the phone the other day. I mean, thank you for doing this, first of all.
I'm glad you did your homework and you know who Bo Dietl really is. You know, a lot of people, they saw this thing that happened on the Housewives, and then once you Google and find out really what I'm all about, you know, this is something that, first of all, my first part of my life, growing up in Ozone Park, I grew up with John Gotti, Scopos, all the gangsters. I didn't go that way, but I have a respect factor with everybody who's in organized crime, but I became a cop. Then eventually I became a homicide detective. And then before that, I actually worked as a laborer, concrete laborer, and a iron worker on the original World Trade Center. Then I became a cop. In my police career, I was very lucky. I was able to break some of the biggest cases, some of the cases with some really great detectives. One big case, probably the biggest one, was my partner, Tom Collar, and I, on our own, 200 detectives working on it. Tommy and I broke it. We got one in New York and one in Chicago. The rape of a nun in a convent in 1981, where they carved 27 crosses. Mayor Ed Koch labeled as the most heinous crime in New York history. They kept it out of the newspaper from Saturday to Wednesday, heavy duty.
Wow. I knew all this, but that's what I think. That's why I wanted to talk to you. You know, I'm from the New York, Connecticut area. So it's like, I feel like we do need to start with this. You're like doing my job for me, which I love. I wish every guest did that. Like, we need to put some respect on your name here. Like, you know, you were hailed as one of like the best detectives ever in the New York.
Well, you know, again, hard work. And I try to teach that to people. You get luck. A lot of luck comes into play, but hard work, then all of a sudden you get the luck. And I just passed 580 8th Avenue over here when I was coming here. And that's one of the areas when I was a detective decoy. Back in the early 70s, I used to wear a seersucker suit, and I used to pose as a victim, like I was stoned or drunk. I got mugged one night 5 times in that doorway, and when I just walked by it brought back memories. Also, I was hospitalized 30 times. I was stabbed. I was shot. I've hit on the head, fractured skull. I've had a really illustrious career, but the reality is I worked hard, and I never thought I was going to ever retire. My last case was a case called the Palm Sunday Massacre. I was part of a great team of detectives, and I was named as the arresting officer. 10 dead, shot in the head. 8 of them were children under the age of 12 years old. I was a pretty horrible sight, and I was there that day. I was off, but I used to call in, what's going on? Oh, we got 2, 3, 4 dead on Liberty Avenue. I said, I'll be right over there. And then my lieutenant there said, Dietl, what are you doing here? I said, what am I doing here? All my homicides are cleared up. I want to get the person that did this. And I was very, very fortunate to be named as the arresting officer in, at that time, the largest mass murder in New York history.
Wow. I mean, didn't you ever get scared? Because, right, you were mugged, you were shot at, stabbed. Like, you know, I mean, now you're Bo Dietl. It's way later in your career. But back then, I mean.
Back then, I was afraid of nothing. And I mean, I never killed anybody. I counted 15, even after a guy stabbed me right up here on 8th Avenue, stabbed me through my hand. You can see the scar. He was an escapee from Attica on a murder, and he wanted me, and my lieutenant's across the street saying, shoot him, Bo. And I go, hey, behind you. And he turned around, and I grab him in the headlock that the cops can't do now. I used it hundreds of times. There's headlocks and there's chokeholds, and, you know, I really depended on my physical strength. Because when I was in high school, for 4 years, all I did was pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, squat thrusts, and run. We had a physical fitness team in the early 60s. We were number 1 in the nation, and I was number 1 in the individual. When I went into the police academy, they used to put bets on me. I was doing 40 pull-ups, 180 push-ups. This morning, I just did 90 and 90 again, and I do a couple other things too, but I still got the strength in me. But you know what? I'm a little older now. Now I got to realize these young cats, I don't know if I can fight with them the way I used to. And I still carry a gun, thank God. I'm able to have a license. And I fear for everybody. I got my grandchildren, my children in the city. I'm scared for other people. I'm not scared for myself. I'm afraid of nobody. I'm really fearful for you and your families and people walking around this city. And that's been part of my life, was helping people. And I continued for the last 38 years. I've been in the private investigating business. And when Nick Pileggi put me on the cover of New York, the cover story in New York Magazine, that was the beginning of the end. And Rayo's Restaurant came out in the cover story. A lot of people don't realize Rayo's Restaurant, it was around since 1896. After Gail Green was up there, or me, Sheridan, one of them, they put it in the New York Times. My table is every Thursday night since 1977, Frank. I thought people like me, Jack Welch, some of the Redstone, everybody called me up. It was all about having dinner at Rayo's with me. Then the movie people with Scorsese, with Denzel Washington, Leonardo DiCaprio, you name them, they've been. And I used to think they liked me. I think it was more so they can't get into Rayo's. The best table is Bo's table on Thursday night.
Well, you think of Rayo's when you think of Bo Dietl. At least I do.
Well, a lot of people thought I owned the place, and I wish I wish they let me invest in the sauce. That was sold for like $450 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
How come you left the police when you did?
Well, that's a great story. So we end up locking up, and I was named to these arresting officers. I was over here in the Helmsley Palace, and I was when they have triplexes there. Who was in the one room was Michael Jackson. I had a couple of Saudi Arabian princes that I had a bodyguard company on the side. I traveled to Saudi Arabia, around the world with them. What I used to do, instead of taking overtime, I used to go to Europe, meet them in Paris in the George Sang Hotel, the Prince de Galles, and then I was an arm wrestling champion, New York State arm wrestling champion. So I used to arm wrestle the other princes, big Lebanese bodyguards. I used to rip their arms out. So I was like the clown. Call Bo Dietl, my guy will beat yours. So they used to look at me, and I was 5'8", probably 5'7" now. They used to look at me, they'd laugh at me. I said, you can laugh all you want. Good night. I ripped their arms out. And I used to come home with couple $100,000 they used to give me, and I didn't pay taxes on it. The statute of limitations over, but I spent it for the economy. I bought brand new cars. Back then, $4,000 suits, the best of everything, crocodile shoes. Everybody thought I was on the take. I wasn't on the take. And then all of a sudden, I lock up this guy for killing the 10 people in the Palm Sunday massacre. I'm over there, and my friend Bill Bray was there. He was a security director for Michael Jackson. I said, Bill, you think I could get my Arab princes to meet Michael? Yeah, Bo, whatever you want. They met him. And then the princes go, Bo, we're so proud. We fly to La Jolla. So we got on a 727. We went to La Jolla, to San Diego. We landed, and all of a sudden, I'll never forget, they called Alex the Madam up. Now, she wasn't just a madam. They hired these actresses for parties, and they paid them $2,500. And these were actresses, real beautiful looking ladies, and they would get paid $2,500. No, it wasn't sex. It was to come to the party. Bring 20 of them in. I used to say to them, listen, you'll get your money. If you steal something, you're going to get your ass locked up. So I did that, and next thing is I'm drinking my vodka, and the prince goes, Bo, you're so famous. Did you ever jump out of a plane? I said, no. Now, they were in the military. Matter of fact, one of them became a major general, and he was one of the guys, I think they just chopped his head off, but I'm just trying to cut to the point. So now, all of a sudden, the next day, we're in a plane. I had a football helmet. I didn't even know what the hell I'm doing. I didn't know how to land. I hit the ground. I broke my leg in half, the tibia, fibia, my ankle busted. So I'm laying in the hospital. The prince is there, and I was in the hospital almost 30 days, and then I was another 30 days there. I come back to New York, and the next thing is they tell me they're not going to let me back on full duty.